Welcome to our meeting, February 4th, 2026. And I'll call the meeting to order. And I'll ask everyone to rise as you're able to sing the national anthem.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor DeBreen is going to be reciting the land acknowledgement this morning. Barb.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. As we gather, we recognize and acknowledge the traditional keepers of this land with whom we share today. The Township of Southgate is part of the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Six Nations of the Grand River, Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, Haudenosaunee, and Saugeen Métis. The land that surrounds us is part of who we are as it reflects our histories. May we live in peace and friendship with all of its diverse peoples.
Thank you, Barb. Is there anyone signed up for open forum this morning?
None this morning, Mayor Mo.
Thank you very much. Confirmation of the agenda. Do we need an amendment, Madam Clerk?
Yes. If we could amend to add an additional item under the closed meeting.
Okay.
The exception being a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. And the subject is development negotiations.
Okay. Barb will move that amended agenda. Jason rather will second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest related to any item on today's agenda? Not seeing any. If one should arise, you can declare it at any time. Delegations and presentations. We have, who do we have? Marissa is here this morning from PSD Citywide. She is going to be bringing a presentation regarding the Southgate asset management plan. So would someone care to move that we receive that? Barb will move that. Martin will second. Thank you. Where is Marissa? Marissa, good morning. There you are. Welcome. And the floor is yours, ma'am.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. I'm just going to request that I can share my screen. You should see that pop up shortly as we get that sorted. Okay. Perfect. So it looks like that's been accepted. Thanks so much. I'm just going to select that. Okay. So you should be able to see a slide deck. If you can't,
we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so with that, I'll get started. First of all, I would like to thank the township for inviting me today to present on Southgate's 2025 asset management plan. The presentation today will look at 5 items. We'll start off with a project overview, just to give everyone a sense of key goals for the project, key methods that we worked through to achieve those goals. We'll touch on the OREG, which is the municipal requirement for asset management, and where the township is within that. From there, we'll highlight the proposed level of service that was selected. This was presented to council a few months back. And then after that, we'll touch base on the associated financial strategy to support the selected proposed level of service. And we'll conclude with a few recommendations. So starting with the goals of this project, when we started this project, we met with key staff at the township and we sought to understand what the goals were. These 4 goals on your screen were kind of the key ones that were identified. So first of all, was meeting the 2025 compliance requirements associated with the Ontario regulation. And this plan does that. So that was an important goal that was met. To support that goal, we also sought to consolidate asset information. What this means is we worked with key staff at the township to inventory every single tangible capital asset. This is everything from pipes in the ground, roads, sidewalks, buildings. And this included the collection of key information about those assets. Some examples being when the asset was constructed or acquired, the cost of replacing that asset, the estimated condition of that asset, and as available and applicable additional attribute data. For example, the size of a pipe, the material of a pipe, or the traffic counts on a road. This provided the township with a really good inventory of assets in one place. And this allowed us to do analysis within a software system that helped us better understand the current state of the inventory, but also project future states based on different inputs. Associated with that was to improve the accuracy and the comprehensiveness of the information. So not only did we collect the information from the township, we also conducted several data review processes to ensure that every single asset had those key attribute data points and to ensure that the information was within the realm of reasonableness. The 4th goal was to increase the confidence in the asset registry. That's also known as the asset inventory. This is important when you're making decisions about assets to ensure that the baseline information you're using to make those decisions, you're confident in. So those were kind of the 4 key goals. And through this project, each of those goals were achieved. To do that, we had 3 key stages that we worked through in the project. The first stage is what we would call kind of a pre-planning and review. This is where we work to collect key information, not only about the asset data that the town has, but also about their financial and strategic documents. So we work with finance staff to understand historical capital investment, understand what that investment level is, how it's typically allocated to assets, and that helps us understand the currently available sustainable funding. We also look at strategic documents to have some important background on the township. We also, as I said, work to collect asset data. We put all of that into a system called Citywide that allows us to better understand the life cycle needs of the asset, what investment is needed and when, as well as the risks held by assets. Once we did that, we work on the second stage of the project. This stage looks at proposed levels of service. So we do preliminary development to understand important inputs. This included the issuance of a public survey and the analysis of the results. It also included the selection of proposed level of service options with staff, the financial strategy of those, and then the presentation to council that occurred a few months back on those options, which included the selection of one. The third stage of the project brought all of these pieces together. In this stage, we drafted the asset management plan, and that plan was drafted based on the information collected in stages 1 and 2. So at this point, I'm going to touch on the regulation. So OREG 58817 is the regulation that governs municipal asset management within the province of Ontario. This regulation holds a series of different report deadlines that all municipalities are required to complete. And so this chart here is showing you what those timelines are and what this project sought to do. So the timelines include beginning with an asset management policy in 2019. That's something the township had already done. It also included a 2022 and a 2024 asset management plan. Those asset management plans focused mostly on the current state. So how are your assets currently performing? What is their current replacement cost? And then this project focused on the 2025 component. The 2025 component is focused on what we call proposed levels of service. That's how we project our assets to perform into the future. And it has to hold consideration for the risks associated, the cost associated, and the achievability. So with the completion of this plan, The township has completed a very important milestone. And again, that's the 2025 asset management plan. To support that completion of that plan, as mentioned, we looked at proposed levels of service. This was presented to council a few months ago, and at that meeting, council selected a proposed level of service to advance forward with. So we presented options. Those options were reviewed by council, and the selection was to select option 2, which is to hold the current investment, increase it 2% each year for tax-funded assets, and option 3 for your rate-funded assets, which is to invest 70% of what we would call the optimal funding, or the average annual requirement, beginning in year 1. The impacts of this is that for tax-funded assets, in the short term, there'll be a slight dip in condition. In the long term, condition will improve over time. This will reflect the fact that over time, there's increasing funding going to those assets, and that improves their condition. For rate-funded assets, condition and risk outcomes are kind of most optimal of the 3 scenarios, particularly within the first several decades. This generally reflects the fact that this option has the highest percentage of that average annual requirement, or the optimal funding that is being invested in. Within the meeting with council a few months ago, we also looked at the financials associated with each of these options. And so for the options that were selected for tax-funded assets, this would translate to a 3.4% increase each year for 5 years. This is an increase that would have to go exclusively to capital. And this also accounts for benefit to existing development based on your development charge background study. For water network, again, and wastewater network, we looked at scenario 3. That was what was selected, and that's funding 70% of the optimal investment, also known as the average annual requirement. This translates to about a 5.9% annual increase for 5 years for water, and about a 2.9% increase for 5 years for wastewater. Now I will conclude the presentation with some recommendations to council. These recommendations support compliance with the OREG and would kind of mark the final step at this stage for the 2025 asset management plan. So as an immediate next step, PST Citywide recommends that council approve by resolution the 2025 compliant asset management plan. We also recommend that they authorize staff to post the document to the municipality's website. These 2 steps are important parts of compliance. Additionally, we recommend that staff and through staff council implement the recommendations of the 2025 asset management plan. Those recommendations are both financial and non-financial, and those are intended to support the township's continued advancement within asset management. We particularly recommend that decisions around budget also account for the 2025 asset management plan recommendations. In the near term, we recommend that the township complete annual reviews of their progress in implementing the 2025 asset management plan. This is something that's required under the OREG. So under the OREG, it's required that on an annual basis, the town's progress in implementing their asset management plan is reviewed. And if there are any limitations in the implementation, mitigation measures are identified. So with that, that concludes my presentation for today. Before I do wrap up, I do want to take a moment to extend my gratitude to the township for their efforts and their collaboration on this project, particularly Jim, Kayla, Taylor, I should say. They were all very key staff who helped this project move, get off the ground, and get to the stage that it is at today. And it was not a small undertaking. As you can imagine, we were working with collecting a lot of different pieces of information and verifying that and working through, big questions and decisions. And so I do want to thank your staff for their great collaboration in that.
Well, thank you very much, Marissa. And I concur with you. I'm not surprised. Our staff do a great job of looking after things here in Southgate. Any questions from council? Martin?
Yeah, Marissa, Jim, Kayla, Taylor, if you're online. Good report. We all voted for what we voted for, and it goes over the years. It says here in recommendations, consider the recommendations for the AMP in future decisions. If we add assets, take them away. Do we need a consultant anymore? It can all be done in-house? And does that comply with the 588-17 legislation? Be good to have it all in-house.
Who wants to take a run at that? Kayla? Jim? Kayla?
Yes, thank you. Through you, yes, it can be done in-house. We would be maintaining our asset management plan internally from now on. We do have a asset coordinator on staff that will be taking these types of initiatives on.
Thank you, Kayla. Mark, I see your hand up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just confirming everyone can hear me.
I can hear you.
Perfect. Good morning,
We
everyone.
can hear you. Sorry.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And thank you, just through you, Chair, to Marissa. Thank you so much for your in-depth presentation. I had two quick questions. One question was just with regards to, if I heard you correctly, this will be annually updated for us to understand what's the progress. Perfect. And then just the second one is that with the AMP, just would it be possible to pair it with plain language so that the public will have a better understanding on how this exactly affects taxes, rates, and service levels? Is that something that's already embedded in there?
Yeah, so the document is written so that, a broad range of audience members can read it. It is pretty direct and straightforward in terms of addressing those questions. So we include, as we presented today, what the tax and what the rate changes would be required to be. And we provide an overview of the options that were explored.
Okay. Was there just a quick follow-up, Chair? If that's okay? Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Just was there a sheet that kind of just broke everything down? Maybe I might have missed it, but was there something that had like the main things all on one sheet?
I can only speak to the plan itself. I'm not sure if staff provided an additional staff report that would identify that.
Okay.
Within the plan, we do identify, what the options were. And there is essentially an executive summary that, hits to the key points of the plan and touches on what we found from the resident survey, what we found from the state of the inventory, and how that led to the options that were explored and eventually which was selected and what the financial ramifications of that are.
Okay. Thank you, Marissa. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Marissa. The clerk would like to
Yeah.
add something here. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Just to add to that, their PSD is providing us the actual plan that is AODA compliant for the website and a little bit more, I guess, reader friendly than this presentation. So that should help, and that'll be online within the next couple days.
Thank you, clerk, for adding that. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Lindsay. Thank you, Lindsay. Any other questions? Jim, go ahead, please.
Good morning, good people. We are in discussions recently again with PSD yesterday. They do have some other tools in their kit that we can leverage on to assist with the asset management going forward too. So staff are looking at some options, and I don't know if Marissa wants to build on that, but we are looking at another component that may help with carrying forwards.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. Marissa, did you want to add anything to that?
I think Jim touched on the key points, and I'm sure as these conversations unfold, additional information as appropriate will be brought forward to council.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay, Barb?
Thank you and good morning. Marissa, I am not aware of the exact number, and maybe you are better informed about the number of municipalities that are still outstanding on their asset management plans. I know that we've been working diligently, our staff and you, to bring us into compliance. But I believe from an AMO board meeting that I attended that there are still a significant number of the Ontario municipalities that are that haven't got to this stage. Do you know where we stand in all of that?
I don't know, what percentage of municipalities are compliant at this stage. There are certainly, I would say a slightly larger proportion who are compliant than non-compliant. There is a website through, I think it is it's either AMO or another municipal organization that plots a map of the province of Ontario and asset management plans, available by municipalities. So that can give you a bit of a sense of what's out there. But yeah, there's no kind of official breakdown at this time of the percentage that are compliant and non-compliant.
Very good. Thank you, Marissa. I'll go out on a limb and say that Southgate's leading the pack again. Right on, with PSD's help. Martin, go ahead.
And on that note, with having this done, could it be a kind of accreditation to the province so it helps us get grants? Is there that policy? No, seriously, they always look at stuff. They throw this into the staff's faces, do this, and do we get money back for it or grants? No, probably not. But is it a feather in the cap that we could use it on an application?
Kayla?
Yes, there are certain grants that ask for the asset management plan as a requirement.
Very good. Good point. Yeah, I didn't mean to make light of your suggestion, Martin, but just my first reaction, I couldn't help it. Sorry.
You can make light of it.
Yeah. Okay. Any final? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor to receive it? That is carried. Thank you very much again, Marissa. It's been a pleasure working with you and your company.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as well. I wish everyone a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, moving on. Adoption of the minutes of the January 21 special council and closed session. Someone care to move that? Jason will move. Jim will second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Reports to municipal officers. The first we have is our finance department. Is Taylor on? Yes, she is. There's Taylor is on the line. So the first report is regarding the approval of the asset management plan that we just discussed with Marissa. Someone care to move that, please? Jim will move it. Monica will second. Taylor, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, all. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath as I just ran home from school drop off, but here we are.
Well, thank you
Okay.
for joining us.
Yeah. Try as I might. Okay, so so Citywide just presented to council the final asset management plan. So this report is essentially just to receive it for information and that council consider approval. I caught the tail end of Kayla explaining that some grants going forward will require this and us to be in regulation for the 2025 requirements. So that brings us up to that. And then post this, if approved, we will have the annual survey, which I kind of alluded to in the previous meeting with Citywide, that we'll have annual surveys to council and staff about how we are implementing the plan chosen based on the level of service, and then also if there's any barriers to that implementation.
Excellent. Thank you, Taylor. Any questions for Taylor from council? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Taylor's next report is regarding the fees and charges bylaw. There have been some changes made as noted in the agenda. Guess we need a mover and seconder, please. Joan will move. Martin will second. Taylor, please.
Okay, so fees and charges bylaw, we're hoping to get it approved today and then in effect for February 9th, which will give staff enough time to put these fees into our system if approved today. We did do a significant research since September of 2025 against 10 neighboring municipalities to see where our fees and charges bylaw kind of compared to others. So in that we used Olive Gray, Wellington North, and Shelburne. So that was kind of the significant change, the significant push for some of these changes to come into effect, as well as things we're hearing from residents. There are a lot of changes outside of the annual increase for COLA, which we did at the 2%. So I won't get into those ones. Speaking specifically for administration, the ones I wanted to highlight are the statement fees and the reprinting of tax bill fees. So those were $35 in the previous iteration and for years prior for the fees and charges bylaw. In my opinion and what we hear from residents, this is kind of an unreasonable fee based on how much time I know is required to create these statements or create the bills again and then mail them out. Obviously, there's costs related to postage, there's costs related to and the time for staff to do these, but I don't think $35 is reasonable cost. So I brought these down to the $10 mark and then increased for if we're mailing them out. There were significant changes to planning, and I just wanted to highlight that the report might have been a little bit confusing in the way that it was written. Just as an example, so the minor fee was increased $420. It's not increasing from $420, it's increasing $420 to make it $4,500. So I just wanted to be clear on that there's not a huge jump. Although some of those could be seen as quite a jump, but it's not going astronomically. So I don't know if council wants to speak to specific fees that have changed. Again, most of them kind of lie within administration and planning. There were some changes based on solid waste changes for the recycling for the IC&I. So we've just changed that to reflect what is currently going on. And that's pretty much all I had to say, unless anybody had specific questions.
Okay, thank you, Taylor. And thank you for that clarification. I was one of the ones that read that and I thought, holy mackerel, that's a big increase.
Yeah, no, all good.
It's all good. Still an increase.
Yeah.
Any questions from council on any of the, Martin?
Yeah, Taylor and maybe Lindsay, it says you lowered the rate for freedom of information. Is that drastic or is it could that reduction be still maintained by the amount of those we're getting in? And do we get a lot?
I'll take that, Taylor.
Lindsay?
No, so what happened the last time that we did the fees and charges bylaw, I can't remember when, but the 2% increase was put on everything. And that the FOI fees are legislated, so they shouldn't have increased at the time. So it's $5 and then there's the reduction fees, but those can't change. Those are legislated, so we put them back to where they should be. And I guess as far as volume, it depends every year. We're probably up in the teens, 10 to 20 per year at this point. Yeah. Increasing steadily.
Yeah, I didn't think there was that much. May I have
Yeah,
one more?
absolutely.
The request to purchase municipal land, I think it said $2,000 deposit. Is that for any property or is that by acre kind of assessment or what?
It's through you, Mayor Milne. It's for any property. We just ran into this where we do a bit of work with legal and a lot of staff time, and then someone might walk away. So we just kind of want that deposit in place so that we don't waste a bunch of our time and money and legal costs that the township would be responsible for if someone isn't more serious about it. So we wanted to implement this deposit, and it will be reflected in a land disposal bylaw that we're almost to the finish line with and we'll be bringing shortly forward.
Great. I have one more if nobody else has any.
You might as well carry on, Martin, and then we'll, please.
Taylor, yeah, thank you. Taylor, you mentioned planning. The one thing I noticed was an MZO request review up to $3,000. Ken, who asked for that? We know about it and does developer obviously knows about it, so who pays for a review of that?
So through your worship, under the changes to the way MZOs are done now with the province, there's an initial request through the township that would have to come if, say, John wanted to have an MZO for a giant piece of land that he purchased. So part of the reason why you've seen the planning fees suggested to change is it's been about 5 years since we did an in-depth analysis. So we did our own separate permit fee analysis. We didn't use Shelburne, but we used Minto, but all the rest of the same locations were used. And when it comes to MZOs, with the changes that the province made in light of, how shall we say, public reaction to the way MZOs have been occurring, there's now this front-ended review that has to happen by the municipality. We haven't received any request, so this is a standing fee that the township put in likely after the existing MZOs came along. But given the way that the planning community is talking about this upfront review, which is essentially like almost like going through a zoning bylaw amendment, then frankly, the fee is way off of what staff time would cost to do essentially the equivalent of an official plan amendment review and circulation.
Clarifies that. Thank you.
Very good. Joan, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm not too sure, but on the planning section, I was just wondering, is there a specific percentage or a way that you move the fees? Like, say, for example, down at the certificates, I was looking at those, and it's more like a $13 increase. Some of the stuff are like $13 or $9. So is there a specific percentage or just the way how you do them to come up with the increase, since some of them are really so small?
So through you, your worship, other than the fees that are specified in Taylor's report that have a larger increase, the vast majority of the fees were 2%. So they might have been slightly more than 2% with rounding, or they might have been slightly below 2% with rounding.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Ken. Any other questions? Barb, go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for the update. The attachment 8, the fees and charges for parking. I note that it says parking fees for C bylaw. Is that the parking fees and permitting that is being proposed? No. So there's a separate bylaw for parking fees.
The clerk would like to jump in there. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Lindsay.
it is the parking bylaw. All of that will be in the parking bylaw. There's not a separate parking fee bylaw. It'll be within the traffic and parking bylaw, whatever that bylaw is called. Those amendments are coming forward.
And that bylaw will include eventually a parking permitting proposal that we're going to be considering.
That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Very good. Any other questions? Any final comments, Taylor?
No, I guess to that point, of the parking, the intention was to bring the fees and charges bylaw once per annum. And I wanted to avoid any way possible that we would have to bring it again and then another iteration. Ideally, we just have one bylaw for the whole year. We know that we are going to do a study of the building fees, so that will be separate and that will come forward later whenever we can get that contracted through the building department. So there'll be one more. So I just wanted to avoid any way possible bringing umpteen iterations of the same bylaw forward, essentially.
Very good. I like your thinking.
Okay.
Okay, final questions? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Taylor's next report is regarding tax adjustments. Someone care to move? Barb will move that. Monica will second. Taylor.
Okay, So for this one, we had a resident that had a structure fire at their property. The fire happened in 2024, so we've just received everything back from MPAC as well as the application for tax reductions. So this report is just kind of outlining that. I do note that in my recommendation, I have the sections of the Municipal Act flipped. So the 357 should have represented the 1,489 to be written off, and then section 358 should have reflected the 588 to be written off for taxes. I just want to be clear that at the end of the day, that doesn't change how we pay back Grey County. It doesn't change how we get money back from Grey County, how we get money back from the school board, or how we issue the funds to the resident. It's all coming out of the same pot. So that's why this is more of a friendly amendment that we're making at this point, but just wanted to be clear on that if it was noted that some of the numbers were flipped, that was an error on my part in the recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Taylor. Questions? Not seeing any questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Taylor's final report this morning is regarding the 2026 budget. Someone care to move that, please? Jim will move. Joan will second. Taylor?
Okay, so we had our final forecasting meeting on the 21st of January. So the mayor tabled the budget as of January 30th at 3.29, which reflected no change from that final forecast meeting. That included the Southgate rate being 3.17 and the Grey County rate being 4.78 increase year over year. So I'll bring forward the report today and then this same or similar report to the next council meeting so that council could bring forward any amendments at that point. So we're just leaving this as like an open section for any discussion should that be needed. And then I just wanted to also iterate that as part of the January 21st forecast meeting, we did have the 10-year capital in there as well. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on that.
Very good. Thank you, Taylor.
Mhm.
Any discussion or questions or indeed amendments?
I was
Pardon?
wondering if there could be an amendment from chats or discussions from last time. The Brenna said we didn't get that ROD, whatever that stands for. Rural. Thank you, Ken. And so we didn't get that, and there was still 20,000 on a budget line. There was a 20,000 budget line for the library that was in consideration, and Barb mentioned that, Deputy Mayor. So I was wondering if we could consider bringing 40,000 just to, after talking with Taylor, you said it would be better going into general reserves, right, Taylor?
Yes.
So that way, for anything small that even finance or admin, they know there's money in the budget for anything special for like 5,000-10,000, they know the money's there. And in a way that might stop us from hitting the community, like the eco and the solar, because it seems we've been dipping into that quite a bit over the last 2 years. So just if anybody would agree with that, another 40,000 in the budget. What would that be? 0.2 or something? Taylor?
So I believe it was, if we wanted to get to the 3.5% blended increase, that would have been 46,000. So you'd be just shy of that with 40.
Okay. Let's open for discussion then.
Well, I guess actually I need a motion.
Oh,
So are you gonna make that motion?
I'll make that motion. I'm not very good at that kind of
So
thing.
right now, I just have it that council amend the budget as tabled to add 40,000 to general reserve.
Reserve. Yeah, that's
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Barb will second it. Any discussion? Joan, did you have your hand up to discuss or to second? Okay, that must have been a seconding. Any discussion? Not seeing any Barb, go ahead. Sorry.
So thank you, Martin, for bringing that up. I was actually going to propose the 46, but I'm happy with the 40,000. And the reason I raised that at the last, or the commenting in the last meeting forecast meeting was because I noted that we weren't putting money into the library reserve, which has always been recommended. As well, I am supportive actually of using those $20,000 from the Eco Park because from the Eco Park Royalty Fund, especially for downtown revitalization, because it's business related. It's not, it will improve eventually, but that's what that fund is for, specifically for Dundalk improvements. So I support the motion to bump it up a little bit just to have that cushion, especially in that we should be investing in our long-term, especially the library. You know, it's expanding all the time, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion, Martin?
Yeah, I didn't mean anything to say that we shouldn't be taking from those two things, but looking down into the future, you know, if we do that, it can be too easy to go there, if you know what I mean, instead of hitting reserves. So that's all I meant by that. Is it's great that we have it, but thank you.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Any other questions or discussion? Oh, Jim, go ahead, please.
Just for clarification, the current budget structured has the Rural Ontario Development Grant for 20,000 out of the Eco Reserve. So are you implying to take it from general or?
No,
Martin?
to add the 40 to general right now.
No, but the piece about the ROD funding, it's already included in there.
Our contribution.
Yes.
Yeah, our contribution and as Brenna said, was it 40 or 20?
So originally, I don't know if Brenda's not there, but originally,
She had
I
applied.
could be wrong, but she'd applied it for 40,000
Right.
and it was a matching. So
Right.
when she didn't get that funding, she wanted to leave. She thought the scope of the project could be reduced a little bit and she'd leave that 20,000 in there. So that 20,000 is in there. And I
Correct.
think what Martin is wanting is an additional 40.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I understand.
Yeah,
That's
that's-
what you're saying. You're shaking
I
your
didn't
head. so-
realize that part of it. So,
To
but
meet the funding that we did not get through the ROD.
That's not how I understand it, just as general reserves, but
yeah, just to take that 40 because there was 20,000 there that she could have used if we didn't get that grant, like to bump it up and then the 20,000 to the library. So I'm just saying add 40,000 to the general reserve. So finance, HR, anybody who needs something like a $10,000 thing
so to
that
be
pops
clear,
up.
Brenna's project would still just be the 20,000
Okay.
from the, yes.
Yeah. And
Yes,
and
that's where it is right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where it is right now. Taylor, I don't know if you want to clarify that, but that
Is that your
20,000.
understanding, Taylor?
That was my understanding. Yeah, I believe through the last report Brenna brought forward, or when she said it at the January 21st meeting, the scope of the project may change, but is likely still in the $20,000 mark.
Okay. All right. With that being,
well, that was what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Anything small that comes up, there's money in the budget to cover it. So whatever.
any other discussion? All right, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of amending? Opposed, if any? I'm going to call the vote again. All those in favor, please indicate.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Hold your hands in the air, please. Okay, those opposed? That motion carries.
Oh.
No, that's fine. Okay. Now we're back to the, well,
It depends if there's more.
exactly. I was just going to say, are there any other amendments that anyone would like to propose to the budget? Okay, not seeing any. We'll come back to the original motion as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor? That carries. All righty. Thank you so much. Thank you, Taylor, for your reports. Thanks for jogging back to
It
Come on
wasn't a jog.
screen.
It was, yeah, anyway.
To the plan. We have a report here regarding the downtown residential parking permits and all that entails. Someone care to move that, please? Jim will move that. Monica will second. Ken, welcome.
Thank you, your worship, and good morning, council. The first item before you is, as you say, about residential parking permit program. We started talking about this as a support mechanism as a result of the amendments to the C2 zone that occurred in December. There was some internal staff concern, and I think some concern expressed by council about if there's a zero parking requirement, is there another option that could be available? So in talking with Public Works, we looked at the Proton Street parking lot and what options there could be to create a permit program where if parking was needed, then someone could apply for a parking permit on a yearly basis and then be authorized to use that lot. This is really about trying to create a program that's easy to administer, but keep in mind that it is still the property owner's responsibility to address things with prospective tenants and make them aware that there is no parking provided. So that is still something that they need to do. Before you is our proposed program, not in a bylaw form. This is basically a preview of coming attractions. But this is meant to get some feedback from council so that we can shape the bylaw to come back for you to then make a decision on. What's really important here is that this is really working towards the downtown Dundalk revitalization strategy and action plan, the issues that were identified that need to be addressed in that action plan. And issue 10 is parking. So this is probably another early win to move all of our efforts for helping downtown Dundalk come alive again. So the proposed program is provided in the attachment. The one thing that I will note is that of the remaining stalls that are not assigned to the uses at 47 and 49 Proton Street, the two recharging stations are included in the parking that is left, but it's not our intention to use those stalls as part of this program. So they would not be included. I'm happy to take your questions, and I'll just conclude by saying that staff took the challenge that you provided, your worship, about seeing how many more people could approve and sign off on the report quite seriously as we put this together.
Well, I'm glad to see it went through a few sets of eyes. That's good. Any questions or discussion? Barb.
Thank you. And through you, thank you, Ken, for getting back to me with some of my mathematical calculations. So there's 41 municipal spots, less the 7 that are assigned to 2 locations on Proton Street, 2 charging spots, that makes 9 that are out of the mix, which would leave 32. How many accessible spots do we currently have in those 41 or 32? 2?
So through your worship, 2, and we don't intend to touch any of those because we were advised that should we do that, it would have to go back to the accessibility committee.
Sure. So if I may, I'm just working through the math for myself. So that is actually 11 spots that aren't available, leaving 30 spots. If we take 50% of those remaining spots, that would leave 15, not 18. And so just comments, because I know we're not approving the bylaw today. I guess my concern on the very first bullet, which I raised to you, Ken, was that offering them to just new dwelling units as a result of a zoning amendment, when we know that there are tenants, landlords who rent out existing apartments who have tenants parking in that municipal lot, those tenants will be tagged and potentially towed. So it's not equitable if we only allow, sorry, you pre-existed, so you're not eligible on a first come, first served basis for a parking spot. So I do have a concern with only allowing them for additional residential units that we're allowing through a zoning amendment. Just my one concern about making sure that it's equitable. And if it's on a first come, first served basis, and we know that through this C2 zoning amendment that maybe we're going to have 6 new units coming forward, we can reserve them for those spaces that we are aware of, because obviously once this goes into effect, the people who are currently using the municipal lot are going to be lined up for a spot. And we want to make sure that we're accommodating the C2 amendment. Sorry, that is kind of, I'm rambling on it, but this is where my mind is going as far as making sure that we have adequate spaces remaining for the business community and that we are fair in how we allocate those spots that are pay for use. The only other comment that I have, Mayor Milne, is that I don't think $100 a year is cost recovery. I think from an administrative standpoint, maintenance, I certainly want to make it fair and achievable, because we certainly don't want people, not purchasing the permits. But I think we need to kind of look at that somewhere in between 100 and 250 probably is a sweeter spot. I definitely don't support going to the $500 mark that you outlined in your report, but I would like to see us look at that $100 and make sure that we can adequately maintain the parking lot, the spaces, the signage, and recover our administrative burden in order to implement this program. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, you want to respond, please?
Yeah, so through your worship, I've been jotting down things, trying to keep track. So in terms of the question about equity, keep in mind that the parking requirement in the zoning bylaw up until council changed it in December was that every apartment above or behind a commercial use in the C2 zone actually had to have a parking stall. So from an equity perspective, my response would be, if people are parking in that lot, then there's a zoning bylaw issue, because they should have had a parking stall to begin with. And if not, a variance to relieve themselves from that parking requirement. That said, if council feels that we should open it up to all of the dwelling units within downtown Dundalk, I don't think we have a concern with that, other than we have a limited resource available. But as you say, Deputy Mayor, if they're already using it, it's being used. In terms of the fee, I mean, I look at how much that I pay to rent my parking stall where I live. I mean, I think we were just trying to come up with a fee that we felt was fine. If council feels that we should increase it, this was not really meant to be a huge revenue generator. I know John and I talked about it. John, did you want to chime in at all? You don't have to.
Oh, the only other comment I'll make is that we maintain it now as a municipal parking lot. And then if we're only gonna do this for 15 parking spots, then we shouldn't be looking at getting the entire maintenance out of those 15 parking spots either, because it is to be there for commercial use as well.
The only other thing that I would add, Your Worship, is that this is meant to be, I won't call it a pilot program, but the start of something. So if we come into the possibility of having additional public parking, so say we were able to buy an empty lot within downtown Dundalk that might come available, and decide that we were going to turn that into another parking facility, this sets the framework so that we could then come back to council and say, okay, now we have this other site we can add to that. This is really building the start. And, if it becomes a possibility for us to expand it, then obviously we would come back and make that suggestion. But we do recognize that there is a limited resource, and we don't want to take so much of the lot away from the businesses that need that parking for their customers. But so this is part of that balancing act of, I go back to what you had said, your worship, the days of being able to drive your truck up to the hardware store, leave it running, go in for 20 minutes and come back out are probably over. If we're going to really revitalize the downtown, we need activity, we need people. And part of that is that the parking is going to get used a lot more too.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So thank you for that. And it wouldn't be environmentally friendly to leave your truck running anyway. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, because what isn't said in the report is that conversation piece about the existing apartments that are in play already would already have a parking spot assigned to that unit. If they have extra cars and they're parking in the lot, then it's up to them to find alternative parking. And they do run the risk of being tagged and or towed. So thank you for that explanation. And thank you also for explaining that we're already maintaining it. I think it's good because this is going to be posted. People are going to be looking at this and following along, that we're not looking for them to pay for the entire lot maintenance just for the signage and the markings. Maybe we're going to number them or whatever that is. So thank you for that explanation. It was worth having the conversation.
Thank you. Jim, do you want to jump in there first? Jim Ellis. And then I see I have both Joan and Monica on screen.
Yeah, just a correction. There's 3 accessible parking spots.
Oh, okay.
There's 2 in the the Proton side of things, and then there's 1 over behind the drugstore.
Okay, thanks for that clarification, Jim. I'm not sure. I saw both hands at the same time. I don't know who was first, Monica or Joan.
I was first.
Okay, go, Joan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did get some of the clarification for 2 of the questions that I had, though. I was a bit concerned too about the part that says new units. I was just worried about what about the units that are currently there, and that was answered for the current unit. And I think the $100, I was thinking that's really small for an entire year. So I think that's something that we can look into too. And then Ken, I'll take you up on this one. I read the report and I'm like, who created this? Approved by, approved by, approved by. We were going through a marathon here, like when we we're having the voting list with the most names that could be on it. So I guess, as Mr. Mayor said, it went through a lot of highs. So that was good. That was just one of my questions, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But thank you for those answers. I did get the clarification that I was looking for.
Very good. Thank you, Joan. Monica, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I just had a quick comment and a question. I just wanted to actually, the Deputy Mayor touched on one of the questions that I have with regards to the accessibility parking. So thank you for raising that. And then just with regards to enforcement, just through you, Chair, to Ken, just wanted to get an idea of what the enforcement day-to-day would look like, and if there was an appeal process in place for tickets that are issued.
Ken?
So through your worship, any complaints or concerns would come through our normal bylaw enforcement process. In terms of any tickets, we're working on bylaws related to the AMPS program, which will set up an internal mechanism rather than going through the courts in terms of challenging a ticket. And that will spell out an appeals process as well. And we're currently working through that. We have draft bylaws under review right now.
Okay, thank you, Monica. Jim?
Yeah, just with the pricing there, with the winter we're having right now, how many parking spaces are we trucking out the snow, or are we just piling it? And how many parking spaces would we be missing right now?
John?
See, Corey's online there. He would have a better answer for that one, just being in Dundalk.
Thanks, John. Corey, do you want to chime in there, please?
Yeah, yeah, we take up about 2 parking spots with snow in the Proton Street parking lot. We do haul it away on occasion to not take up too many. So about 2 spots are taken up with snow.
Yeah. Thanks, Corey.
Yeah, that was just kind of one of my concerns is we're going, if we're renting out the spots, we're going to have to keep them
Yep.
clean and that.
Yep.
So that would be.
No, that was a good question. Thank you. Especially pertinent winter like this, that's for sure. Any other questions or discussion? Oh, Jim, I'll go first, or Jason rather, sorry. Gee,
I was just wondering, so do you have to have a dwelling unit or can I go and buy a parking spot, anybody for the public?
So through your worship, the way the program would work is you'd have to demonstrate that you are in a dwelling unit that's being rented in downtown Dundalk.
okay. Micah, go ahead, please.
Yes, just a quick follow-up from my other question was just with regards to fully supporting fixing things with downtown Dundalk parking. Just wondering with regards to signage and a review checkpoint, just to make sure we don't accidentally punish residents while trying to improve the turnover. So I know we have a plan right now that we're working. Is there any way to speak a little bit on what the clear communications and the signage plan would be to inform public?
Yes.
So through your worship, maybe I'll start and then I might have John jump in. But the way that we've envisioned this rolling out, so taking council's comments into consideration, I think I'm getting the impression we open this up to to all, not specific to the amendment, but and then what would happen is we would take the time necessary to make sure that the existing residents that are using the parking are notified that this program is coming into place and that they need to have a permit. Part of what the permit pays for is the signage to identify the fact that this stall is now being used, it's being rented out. The way John and I had talked about implementing it is that if Phil came in for a permit because he was a downtown renter, he would be issued a permit and with it would be a map of the parking lot where it would say like, this is generally the area that you can park in. I don't know, John, if you wanted to go ultra specific to say this is Phil's stall. I mean, I think that's really up to Public Works to decide, but it was really about clarifying that no, you can't park in the stalls right up against Proton because that is what we want for those people that are shopping. And then we would install signage to say like these stalls are reserved and they're permit parking only. You must display your permit at all times.
Right.
I'm
John,
not sure if you want to
anything
add
to
anything, John.
Not really much. Just one option for the signage is that it wouldn't cost any more for the sign as we could have, because I'm assuming the permits will be numbered. So we could have on the sign that this spot is for permit 001, this one's for 002 is another option. Because then we would, for enforcement, the permit would be on the vehicle and just a quick look. 001 is in 002 spot, so there's an issue there.
Yep.
And the one thing I'll add is that there's a couple of amendments that are suggested that when the bylaw gets approved, they will have to be sent to the province because it's some minor text amendments to the set fines. So that has to get approved by the province as the next step when the bylaw comes forward.
Right. Jason had a question and then I'll go to Barbara.
Well, it probably goes back further than you can, but probably you could answer it. So, why in planning do they allow, say there's a whole bunch of apartments above there and not enough parking spots? Whereas in your residential area, you're only allowed to park, you can only park a couple cars in your parking spot. So why do planners, why do you put 7 apartments if you know there's only 3 parking spots? I'm just curious.
So through your worship, council is who sets the parking rate through our recommendations to you through the zoning bylaw. And so you have different parking rates to recognize the different contexts of development throughout our community. So for instance, if you look at our existing developing neighborhoods, like the Flato site, those are smaller lots, but still require a certain number of parking spaces for the dwelling unit. Typically, when we set those parking standards, usually what will end up happening 9 times out of 10 is those parking stalls are supposed to be provided in the garage. The reality of what actually ends up happening, like most folks who buy a house, is the garage is full of all the stuff. It's got everything other than the cars. And then you end up with the driveway. And the driveway is never actually considered a parking stall from the bylaw perspective, but it's dimensioned big enough to be, so that it's kind of that backup parking for when you have, you know, the big family gathering or what have you. And then once you start exceeding the area that you can provide parking, that's what the on-street parking is for, because it's that communal resource for everybody to use, in the hopes that, you know, house number 1 isn't having a party all the time, and house number 2 isn't having a party at the same time, and then all of a sudden it's a mathematical requirement, and then it depends on what people do in their home. In terms of downtown areas, yet again, it also needs to recognize the context. A number of these buildings, because of the rail trail, don't really have space to have a dwelling unit. And so the question that we posed to council, which you agreed with, was, well, if that's a space constrained area, is that a reason enough not to allow more housing? When we heard from one individual who came and spoke to council that said, well, or no, sorry, that was at the, I think it was the mayor's event or the coffee chat, who said, well, why is parking needed? I don't have a car. So, you know, council makes these decisions based on our recommendations. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to focus on housing, because we feel that housing is more important than parking.
Okay, who was next here? Go ahead, please.
So originally, some of the commercial buildings allowed for 1 unit above, and they had 1 parking space. What we have done through the latest zoning bylaw amendment in the C2 zone is to allow for additional units above commercial properties within the building code, and making sure that, you know, might be 2, might be 6, depending on the property. And we had this conversation and concern about people parking on Proton Street in front of businesses that live above. And this is why we're trying to address, we're going to provide a parking spot. I will withdraw my comment about the existing apartments. If all the existing apartments that are currently in play have a parking spot, not within the municipal lot itself, then I don't see why we need to open it up. However, having said that, you may get people saying, well, I have 2 cars because we both go to work and I have nowhere to park, so we may have to be flexible. We don't have an unlimited number of spaces. We're now down to 14 and a half to be reserved for businesses. And I can tell you, being on Proton Street the other night, I don't know where they weren't in the 2 places that were open, but the street was full with vehicles. So we're already running into challenges, and given it's winter and snow removal. So I'll look forward to what you come back with. But I take your argument that any existing apartments should already have a designated spot. If they don't, then that's up to the landlord to resolve. Thank you.
Okay, had a really good discussion and I think Ken's been furiously taking notes over there, I hope. Well, Phil has maybe. So we'll see what the bylaw actually looks like when it comes back. So to receive it for information, unless there's any burning further questions. Okay, call the question to receive. All in favor? That is carried. We'll do the next report and then we'll have a break. So the next report is regarding Dundalk policy and land use updates. Is regarding zoning. Someone care to move that, please? Jim will move that. Monica will second. Ken, please.
Yes, thank you, your worship. This report is seeking direction from council for the planning team to start some work to dive into the official plan and the zoning bylaw, specifically looking at our policies and land use framework for the downtown core, once again, to support the work that Brenna's revitalization strategy for the downtown is suggesting in terms of things to look at to resolve some of the key issues for downtown. We want to do a review just to make sure that the downtown land use framework and policy is as flexible as it possibly can be in terms of allowable uses. We want to make sure that one of the issues we mentioned in the C2 zone amendments was that the C2 zone wasn't specific to the core of downtown Dundalk. It was actually applied all over Southgate, and that up until you amended it, we did provide a bit of a stopgap. Had someone, purchase the Proton Street parking lot and then come forward and said, hey, I want to redevelop, what would have been perpetuated through that zoning is not something that would have tied into the character of that street being right up against the property line. It would have been more a suburban shopping plaza, which really does not fit into downtown Dundalk. So we want to make sure that those gaps are addressed and dealt with, and bring something back that is flexible and works to help the work that Brenna has identified. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Ken. Are there any questions? Discussion? Okay, Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, just a comment. Ken, thank you very much. I'll go back to the application of grants like spoke about earlier. You say in your report, the downtown area of Dundalk should be defined in the official plan as a distinct focal point of the urban area. And zoning regulations should be crafted to encourage growth, which is great, totally supportive. Defining the downtown in the official plan using the term central business district. Would all these things that are being done, would they be able to be leveraged again in a grant? Because it is defining that we're looking at the downtown, we want it renovated and thriving. Well, feel like a feather in the cap if applying, basically.
So through you, your worship, I'm not sure what exactly the province looks for in a grant application, but my instinct would say it doesn't hurt. Yeah. And I think one of the things that most municipalities do is define what the downtown is. And so one of the key questions that came out of the discussion of the work that Brenna was going to do with that funding was what are we going to do with these drawings and sketches of what the future of downtown could be? And this is an opportunity to look at those and say, well, we could put them into the official plan as a vision, not as this is exactly what's going to happen. They're sort of an inspiration of what we want to see. And then from that, here is the policy framework for downtown if you're going to develop a new building or renovate, and how we would move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Monica, did you have your hand up?
Just a quick question, Chair.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to just through you, Chair, just say I completely support any review that would be pro housing and pro business. Just wanting to make sure that the downtown character is maintained. So I know that flexibility was mentioned in regards to sustaining the look. I'm just wondering what the guardrails would be because the word flexibility was used there. So I wasn't sure if Ken could just touch on that.
Yeah, Ken, please.
So through your worship, one of the things that we would have to keep in mind as we draft any policy is that any development that happens is done in the modern context. It's done with modern materials, it's done with modern techniques. But that doesn't mean that we can't look at some of the historical elements and have that replicated or continued. So for example, if the Proton Street lot suddenly became a development lot and somebody wanted to build a building, one of the things we would look at is what is the context of downtown in terms of building height? How are the floors and the windows aligned with other buildings along the street? How is that interface at the street created? So for example, are they putting the main entrance fronting onto Proton Street? Or are they tucking it away on a side? That wouldn't really be something that we would want. Are they putting commercial uses on the ground floor and designing those commercial uses in a way that potentially we could look at the idea of those commercial uses maybe converting to a residential use over time? And this idea of live work units that happen in some more urban places where you design it with a commercial height of the building, but then if the commercial uses are not viable, then it could convert to something else. Those are just some ideas. What do the materials look like? Are we getting a new building that would have all of a sudden just vinyl siding? That doesn't really go with the downtown aesthetic. So then we could look at, we want to see more brick or something similar that mimics that character. And right now, there's not a lot of that policy in our plan.
So just wanted to just thank you, Ken, because it's a very thoughtful response and definitely maintaining that rural charm. Agricultural rural charm is something I think that new people and people who have been here for many years would appreciate. So thank you for your very thoughtful response and that there's a process that people I really think will appreciate.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Ken. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. It is 10:15. Why don't we reconvene in 10 minutes? We'll recess till then. I think we got everybody back. It is 10:26, so let's bring our council meeting back to order. We have some reports, a couple of reports here from the HR department. The first is regarding fit for duty policy. Somebody care to move that, please? Martin, thank you. Second by Jim. Kayla, welcome.
Thank you. This is a new policy that staff have created just to provide some guidelines, kind of more guidelines and some procedures regarding showing up fit for duty for work. And this is just to keep our workplace safe.
Very good. Thank you, Kayla. Questions? Discussion? Not seeing any. Oh, Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, Kayla, good report. I read through the policy. You seem to leave no stone unturned. And you just said more recommendations. Is this something that's mandated by occupational health, or is it something that you and staff have just seen that you want to get another policy? Because you do refer to 9 here that have probably duplication. So I was just wondering why the Cannabis Act's twice. I hate to say it, Brian, but were you trying to nip something in the bud there? But that I said it, so we'll go on that. But why? Like, why the reasoning when you have all these other ones to refer to? Was it mandated?
Kayla?
So it's not
This one.
mandated. However, we wanted to be clear on what was and wasn't acceptable, which wouldn't be included in those other legislations. As far as the Occupational Health and Safety Act, it would just fall under that general duty to ensure everybody's safety.
Thank you.
I thought maybe that was a little smoky to see through. Doesn't get any better. Okay, yeah, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just through you, to Kayla, thank you for the report. One question I did have was if there was a suspected impairment, is there a part or a policy where if someone needed to be transported home or have safe removal from duty, is there a clear process or protocol for that?
Kayla?
Yes, thank you. We did outline that in the policy that we would remove them from the workplace, even if it was suspected, just to err on the side of caution. And we would ensure that that person gets a ride home, that they're not driving home.
Thank you, Kayla.
And just a follow-up, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just something, just to the point of Councillor Shipston, I was also wondering about that as well, but not going to be acting punitively for people who may be, having mental health issues or prescribed medications. How can we ensure that that accommodation would be handled properly?
Kayla?
Thank you. It's a good question, and these types of situations are very sensitive. We do have an accommodations policy, an accommodation and return to work policy that has forms that can be filled out by medical professionals, and then they would work with usually myself to ensure that proper accommodations are put in place in coordination with the managers. And if they go above and beyond kind of what our scope of what we can do here, we would contact a third party for assistance as well.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Kayla. Any other questions or discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Next report is regarding our employees and as volunteer firefighters. Someone care to move that, please? Barb will move that. Jim will second. Kayla, please.
Thank you. Again, this is a new policy that staff have created. It is in coordination with the fire chief. And we do have employees that also serve as volunteer firefighters. And we wanted to ensure that we had a consistent guideline as to how those would be carried forward, just to make sure that daytime calls are able to be responded to, yet we're still following our business continuity here.
Very good. Thank you, Kayla. And we do appreciate any employees that make themselves available for the volunteer firefighters. We want to keep everybody safe though. Barb, please.
Thank you. And I noted the fit for duty policy, and from a benefits perspective, an employee health and benefits perspective, to ensure that those individuals that have stepped up and have volunteered to be a volunteer firefighter comes with additional risk. Does that pose any difficulties with the employee benefit program?
Kayla, please.
Thank you. Through you. I don't, they've never asked, like our benefit company doesn't ask if you're a volunteer firefighter. There's nothing in there that they're even aware of it. So I don't believe that that's a factor in for them.
Very good. Any other questions? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Kayla. Okay, we have a report here from the CAO. Just regarding inclement weather, township closures and functions. Someone care to move that, please? Monica will move, Barb will second. Jim, please.
Yeah, so recently the way the winter we're battling, and putting out the communication to council last Friday morning, I believe it was. And I commented about that we are still being able to work from home and business continuity. And just thinking of that afterwards, I thought it would be good to bring this report to the residents and the public to understand that we still are available, we still can be functioning. And then brought in the other departments, what happens with them in these kind of weather events. So just wanted to broaden that out from council, just to bring that to attention and awareness, so.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. And there's not much good come out of the pandemic, but I think this is one of them, that it accelerated our ability to work remotely and continue the business at hand. Any other questions or discussion? Barb.
Thank you. And through you, Jim, there are the minimum, and maybe John, the minimum maintenance standards in a significant weather event. And when we declare all of those, I noted in looking at other municipalities, they follow the same standards and the hierarchy of roads. How is snow removal, if you could just elaborate for anyone who might visit this link and listen in, because this is a hot topic these days about snow removal and, snow in driveways, and the roads aren't being plowed to the bare pavement, which isn't done in other municipalities either. I'm just wondering if we're going to circulate this information. Is there more information that we could, or education that we could be providing to our residents? And I know that John has been looking into some of the videos that have been shared with me, that I've shared through to staff from residents on snow removal. Just if we could just maybe elaborate a little bit.
John, please.
Through the chair. So if you're talking, I'm assuming specifically to the windrows and people's driveways and whatnot. I've been doing some initial preliminary research into it, and it'll be a very, very costly program for us to implement. And the cities that do it, Mississauga does it, Toronto does it in certain wards. They're 4 to 6 hours after the road has been plowed before they come around to do that windrow removal again. So you're looking at noon or later before it would even be done anyways. And again, you're looking at added equipment, added personnel, bigger facility like the depot would have to be expanded to accommodate the additional equipment, and just other options like that, or other issues like that would have to be addressed at the time as well. If you want to get into the significant weather event, what that does for us is it deems the roads in a state of repair, meaning that we won't be held liable if anything happens because the weather is so bad, we can't keep up with getting it to the standard that it needs to be. So. Go ahead.
And I'd like to add that this particular winter with the wind and the blowing snow, Southgate is not unique or experiencing this alone. This has been happening across Grey County, in Toronto, Brampton, Mississauga, and if the event continues, so if there were this expensive equipment and we followed, 6 hours after an event, it doesn't mean that it's 6 hours after the road is initially plowed. It's 6 hours after we have met the minimum standards and we can get back to it. So if I'm not mistaken, I mean, when you have 1 million people, and I don't know how many properties that equates to in Mississauga, but if it's $120 per household, that is 120 based on 800,000 houses. We have maybe 3,000 houses. You still have to pay for the same equipment and time and staff. So it'd be incrementally more for us to do Dundalk in that manner. But I'm glad that staff are always looking for opportunities to improve our service while keeping our taxes down, and that, maybe there'll be more information coming. But this just goes to show that staff understand what residents are going through. It's a particularly bad winter. So thanks for that.
Jim, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just to add to your points there about the minimum maintenance standards, that is for clearing the roadway. And if you were saying that we're coming around 6 hours later to clean out the end of your laneway, that would not be applicable to the minimum maintenance standards. So.
Understood. And the minimum maintenance standards is what guides us in all municipalities set out by the province, if I'm not mistaken. These aren't things that we make up. And that is the standard that we have to achieve. Going above and beyond to remove snow from somebody's, to push back snow to the curb and remove the windrow, goes way above and beyond and comes at, significant cost and would not, and as you say, Jim, would not fall within the what is required to be done. So I totally agree.
Very good. Any other questions, comments? Okay, not seeing any. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Jim. Any notice of motion? Nope, not seeing any. Consent agenda. Be it resolved that council receive the consent agenda dated today, save and accept items if there are any. Does anybody wish any items to be removed for discussion or further direction? Oh, Martin? Sure. Okay. Any others? Okay, save and accept. So the motion will continue to read save and accept items 11.9, 11.10 for information. All those in favor? Oh, do we have a mover and second? No, we do not. Mover and seconder to do that. Monica will move. Jim will second. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, Martin, 11.9.
Yeah, just to bring this for information so it gets into the public. I was reading it through the agenda and I went back to when we had the water rates survey and report.
Yep.
And there was so much discussion about how the residents, it even said in the local Dundalk paper, I think the headline was 3%, and then underneath in italics, and the residents still think it's too high. And all the talk before, and even Deputy Mayor touched on it now with the snow, and Jim mentioned it's economies of scale. There's only so many people for a service that has to be provided, after Walkerton. And 3% is not much, especially Brian, when you mentioned that community out east. I thought it was Eastern Ontario, but it was out east, Atlantic.
Halifax, I think.
Yeah, Halifax. They never looked after their water system and they're looking at a 60% rate hike. So I think we're doing darn good. And I read this report from Watson's and it says potential impacts with the DC charges, how that could affect the rates going up or down. So, you know, and I think Deputy Mayor, I think Barb, you mentioned it to be put on the website, that graph that showed we're right in the middle. So I just want to make that known that, you know, for the last 20 years, council and staff have been working on this and doing a great job, and the rates are what they are because we are doing a good job to try and keep it down, but we do have to pay for it. And factors like DCs could affect it. That should be made known to the public that we have so many different things to look at, especially as staff as well. So that's basically it.
Very good. Thank you, Martin. So you're moving to receive that information? Is there a seconder for that, please? Monica will second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. And 11:10, Martin. please.
Yeah, I read this and I said, wow, that's a good news. That's a blessing. We don't see too many things like that at council coming in. And it was a personal thing for me because when we were at the table looking at the program and looking at the costs and how it's going to affect service, I never thought of doing what John and staff did for all the other worship places and not-for-profits. You know, a little thing like that has obviously meant a lot. And I think this letter is just the tip of the iceberg for the appreciation of what staff did. A little thing, but it means a lot.
Yep.
And I felt quite remiss to see that report from John saying, why didn't I think of that? That should have been first and foremost for me. So just kudos to staff for thinking about that. And it's obviously very appreciated.
Thank you, Martin. And you're moving to receive that? Is there a seconder? Barb will second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. General announcements. Does anybody have any? Just to kick it off, I will commend John on his recent certification. Well done, sir. Monica, I see your hand up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted just a few things I wanted just to have for this portion. Just wanted to wish the Tamil community happy Thai Pongal. It happened during January. We have a robust Tamil community here in Southgate, so just wanted to wish that. And also, obviously, this is a wonderful month of Black History Month. We have great things that are happening for sure coming up. And also, Bruce Gray Farmers Week was back in January as well. So that was very wonderful. One of the things I wanted to just add was that I'd like to share that following a resolution passed by the Gray Bruce OPP Detachment Board on January 27, 2026, I've been appointed as the board's representative to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Planning Advisory Committee with CAO Nicole Martin appointed as the alternate. So this role supports collaboration between municipalities, police services, and community partners, and I look forward to bringing key learnings back to the board and council as appropriate. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Monica. Any other, Martin, go ahead, please.
I wasn't going to, but something you said about, you know, all the work being done at home from COVID, how there were some bright things, some silver linings. The Blood Donor Clinic had their thing last couple of weeks ago. And that's one silver lining from COVID because now they have to make appointments. And because of that, it went from a benchmark of maybe if they got 50, it was great. Now they're looking at 110 because people are making that commitment. Psychological thing, I guess. Oh, I've made a appointment, I should go. Either way, from COVID though, the numbers just doubled and tripled. And last clinic, the community came out for there was 110 booked, and even in that cold day, there's still 86 people came out. So that a big shout out to the community and especially the Mennonite community for that because it's just blossomed.
Very good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martin. And kudos to the community. Absolutely. Barb, go ahead.
Thank you. I just mentioned that in recognition of Black History Month, as Councillor Singh Soares mentioned, it's February. Junction Community Initiatives kicked off the month on February 1st with a resounding performances, speakers, education, and of course, cultural cuisine at the Dundalk United Church on Sunday. And it was very well attended. There was probably it was a full house in the congregation, and we had to eat in shifts. The guests had to go down in shifts because of the room downstairs just couldn't accommodate everyone. So kudos to Councillor Joan and her JCI team.
Very good. Yes, I attended that event as well, and it was very well done. I was very impressed. Anything else? Okay. Moving on, we have the bylaws that we discussed earlier today. Be it resolved that the following bylaws dated today, save and accept, be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and entered into the bylaw book. Does anyone wish any of those three bylaws to be removed for further discussion or direction? Okay, so the three will be included in the motion. Someone care to move? Jim, second by Martin. Thank you. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we have a closed meeting today. Be it resolved that council proceed into closed session at 10:47 in order to address two matters. Actually, Madam Clerk, we have three matters.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure. You read the amended motion, please. Sorry.
So, well, I gotta get my thoughts together. So it'll be it resolved that council proceed in closed session at 10:47, I believe you said, in order to address three matters relating to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Both those subjects are potential litigation and litigation update. And then a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, and the subject is development negotiations. And that all those required remain in attendance.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Lindsay. Someone care to move that, please? Jim will move that. Martin will second. All those in favor? That is carried. So we will proceed into the closed meeting conference room. Okay, we are back in open session and I can confirm that we only discussed those items that were listed on the closed meeting agenda. Confirming bylaw. Someone care to move that, please? Jason will move. Monica will second. All those in favor? That is carried. We have one more motion to adjourn. Barb